But I'd like everybody to go down. First of all, I know all of these men except one. And I would say that I'm honored that all of them are here today. They're exceptional people. And then me and Mike have had adamant disagreements about everything. But we have a mutual respect for each other, and that's what matters. So I'd like to first start with Jason. If you could briefly introduce yourself, tell us who you are and where you work, and how you serve the community.
My name is Jason Boyd, and I live in Dorchester and also work in Dorchester with the Cobden Square Neighborhood Development Corporation. I run their community organizing and resident resources department, and I cut into Tony about 4 years ago. He did some volunteer work with the organization, and he, along with another young brother, Kenny Maskery, we ran a summer program, leadership program for boys called the Brotherhood Project in conjunction with Concerned Black Men in Massachusetts. And ever since then, Tony, during that time hadn't got New Start Project off his feet yet. But after that experience a few summers ago, we've kept in touch. I served on his board of the New Start Project for a little bit. And he's a right-on brother, and he does his part, so he called me to be on the panel. Of course, I said I would participate.
One of the smartest people I ever met.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's true.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, I'm David Corby. I'm a community organizer of the Union Minority Neighborhoods. It's a Black advocacy organization within Jamaica Plain. And I'm new to the organization, so it's coming up on a year. And I guess I would say my job, or my task, is really social awareness and I guess bringing light to certain issues through video and media. So that's my own personal contribution, but Horace Mall, who's my executive director, he's at the State House all the time, really trying to pass bills and make changes in the Black community through like different coalitions and different things like that.
And before you say something, well, I'd just like to say, Union Minority Neighborhood, they gave me my first shot. So when I first started, like you were saying, I didn't have my feet on the ground. It was Horace Small that opened his office and said, you can work for here for free. And he really was a blessing to us, so I wanted to give that shout out to you.
Nice, welcome.
Hi, how's everybody doing? My name is William McNeil. I am a husband, a father of 7. I only made 4 of them, so don't judge me. I only made 4 of them. I am a preacher at Bay State Chapel in Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm also a member of the Men of Color Think Tank. We are a group of young Black men that come together to discuss all issues in the community by investing our time, talent, and treasure. And I'm also a friend of Michael Jerry, and I'm very happy to be here to see all of you and all of these beautiful faces so we can discuss things. Also, I have a online radio show called The 5 O'Clock Shadow, Monday through Fridays, 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in, help me pay some bills. Thank you. On 7avradio.com. So, yeah, if you could tune in, 7avradio.com, listen, call in. We're going to talk about actually what we're talking about today. So if there's anything else you'd like to discuss with me further, you can find me there. And thank you.
Thank you.
Will is a very humble guy. What's happening? I'm Mike Jerry. He's not used to selling himself like I am. I'm the organizational driver for the Men of Color Think Tank for Worcester. That means I'm in charge for 2 years, for the next 2 years. And the co-host of a political radio talk show on 91.3 FM on WCUW.org. It airs every week from noon to 1 on WCUW.org for the folks in Boston. And that show's been running for 8 years. It's called Voice of the Voices. This fall, my first venture into opening a business, a cooperative, a coffee shop. We sell fair trade coffee and vegan fast food. And then Sunday, yes, on 7 Ave Radio, I have a urban music show that airs from Sunday to Saturday, 7 days a week from 9 to 11 called the 5-Way Mixtape Show.
Nice. Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
I'm a community organizer and freedom lover. Yeah, okay, that's it.
Um,
Great panel.
So we will begin with questions. First question that we will have to throw out there. So one of the things that's going to happen around the fourth question we have, it'll be, has President Obama empowered the African American community politically and economically? What we're going to do is we're going to actually have an opportunity for the audience to engage that conversation, so there'll be an interaction, and then at the end of the actual dialogue, there will be an open conversation about how, what are some changes that we would recommend to address some of our issues, if at all. So the first question I'd like to address to the panel is, how would you describe the state of Black America today? And what we will do is, we will start from Jason and we will go to Mark.
Tony come with these lofty questions, but
You're smart, you can do it.
how, you know, I mean, how would I describe the state of Black America? It's, you know, we have a lot of assets, as we always had, and we have some real challenges facing us. And one of the things I was talking to Tony earlier in the week, I was saying that all times when we talk about our community, we have a tendency to speak of us as a monolith, and as well as come from a deficit-based way of talking about us as a people. And you know, most importantly, we often talk about ourselves deficit-based to our children, which is troubling to me. So yeah, we have you know, there's a lot of disparities in a lot of categories, health categories, you know, infant mortality rates, most certainly incarceration rates, home ownership, many things. But if you look at our journey as a continuum, you know, as opposed to in the immediate, we've had a beautiful struggle. We made a lot of strides that not only we as a people have benefited from, but the nation as a whole has benefited from. And I think it's important that we have that critical understanding in that historical context of where we are. Because all times you hear, there's always been a crisis for Black folks in America. You know what I mean? And that's since, you know, Jamestown, 1619, when we landed, until, you know, whatever today's date is, August 5th. And it seems like kind of the popular narrative has become that somehow crisis is new, and but struggle is not new to us, and it's we've always been outnumbered and outgunned, but we continue to move forward. So when I think about Black America, I continue to be inspired and troubled at the same time. It's a very complicated and contradictory love affair in a lot of ways. So that's kind of my take on us as a folk on August 5th, 2016.
Thank you, Jason. David?
I totally agree. There's just so many issues, and I just think, like, they're so multidimensional, it's really hard to address one without addressing the other ones. And, you know, like you said, you know, we talk to our children about, like, in the way that it's like a deficit, that we have something that we have to, I guess, achieve, or that we need to get to in the next plateau. And it's never like we're good in the moment that we are, even though it's like very diverse. But I think that with Black America today, it's we've always had a persevering nature, and I think that now we're seeing that though we're facing a lot of troubles and just a lot of things that potentially can harm our, I guess, like our health and just kind of like our overall being or our culture. I think that right now we can all see that the police are getting filmed, these issues pertaining to health are being addressed, or at least they're being brought to the table and to be addressed. And I think right now it seems as though we have a lot of allies, and we can pull a lot of people into, I guess, our movement, which then will, I guess, like, again, address these multidimensional issues. And I think that it's very hopeful right now. And
So I think there's two standpoints you can use to gauge the state of Black America today. In one sense, it's not really much different than when we were brought here. We are still slaves. We are still under a lot of systemic racism, where it's not as outward as it was. We still are not afforded the same freedoms. We are not afforded the same rights. And as ourselves, we are still very broken, and we are dealing with a lot of trauma. On the positive standpoint, we are more driven. We are striving for more education. Our youth, I am so impressed with our youth today. They are thinking less and less about partying and drugs and sex. While that's still a problem in Black America, I see more thinking about their future and their education and their drive to want to be somebody in this country. And I am just impressed of how stronger they are than I was 20 years ago. So you can look at it from two different standpoints on the state of Black America, but Black is so strong and so beautiful.
I'd say so I'm a positive person. I'll try to conduct positivity and love and those.
Be authentic.
Hey, come on, stop playing over here. So first, I would say I think there's Black people are a little bit delusional about their existence in America. The sister Corinne, when she was, there's been a lot of argument about us exercising our rights. We do not have rights here. We are still 3/5 of a human being, based on the letter, the writing of the laws here. That most folks believe the 13th Amendment ratified that. It did not. This is a law of land, land of laws, and that means technicalities, and that means that there needs to be verbiage that says that you are no longer 3/5 of a human being. You are now whole people. No such thing ever happened. So technically, we are still 3/5 of a human being, and it's the reason we never had a defection or divestment as a nation from the exploitation of Black bodies as the underbelly for a capitalist society. Right? Black people are the deterrent to the message to all folks. If you don't want to be down there, excuse my language, with the niggas, then you get in line and you comply, right? And so that is the verbiage, that is the understanding, and most people understand that dynamic, except for the Black folks. Black people, it seems, and I'm not saying all of us, and this is a generalization, there's this romanticizing about us being citizens and us having equal rights. We do not, as an illusion, right? And until we actually accurately assess the paradigm that we live in, we're going to continue to have like these type of what I would refer to as cough syrup treatments, right? And cough syrup doesn't actually treat the ailment; it just suppresses the cough, right? And we are not treating the actual ailment in this country. That being said, I hear what the brother was saying, Jason, right? I have at the Minnesota Think Tank, we have a slightly different take from the brother H-Rap, from the Panthers. We are the ilk that we're not outnumbered. We're out organized. And when I say Black, we have to talk about who's Black, right? Race is a social construct, right? And it's not a real thing. And so you have this arbitrary classification based on pigmentation, and so that only actually supports white supremacy. It creates more divisions amongst yourself. I'm not Black. I'm Jamaican. I'm not Black. I'm Dominican. I'm not Black. I'm Argentine. I'm not Black. I'm Vietnamese, right? So what is Black? But if you're talking about Black Americans, specifically the descendants of slaves, it's only a matter of time, man. Either we can get to the place we want to be. What's on the bottom will rise to the top. It's undisputable. It's a law of science, and so we can get there in a peaceful way, or we can get there the way that we're going.
Great. So I think one thing I'd like to do, follow up before we move on to the next question, because it seems to me that the overall panel, the sentiment is that there's good things and bad, but there's a historical legacy that we could look at as positive. But one of the concerns that I think that has spawned this whole dialogue in the beginning is that I think that there may be a sense that we're not really addressing the issues that impact us. So we've seen things like we talked about trauma, racism, police, but I'd like to throw out some statistics, and I'd like you guys to briefly just comment on it. Even in the city of Boston right now, The number one person that drops out of high school is African-American male. 17 to 20-year-olds who are African-Americans in this country, 51% of them are unemployed. In a place where the President of the United States is from, Chicago, Illinois. It's over 464 shots, gun violence there. People have been shot. 46 of those people have died. The idea of it is, what do we see? Even in this Geneva Four Corners area, 70% of the homes here are single-family homes. What do you say to those statistics, and how does that line up with the historical legacy and the state of Black America? And I'd like to start with Jason.
You've put out some numbers, but it's you loaded a lot in that question. I'm trying to think, you know what I mean? You said boom, 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 boom. Now start with Jason. But around to what the brother on the end spoke to in regards to kind of a permanent underclass, and anytime oftentimes when we kind of shorthand, we was kings and queens in Africa, but I always say in order to be a king, it has to be a peasant, and capitalism places things over beings. So anytime you have a system that places things over beings, you're going to have a disconnected, and exploited humanity. Be it from slavery. We had our little period of Reconstruction, which was either 12, 15 years, and then the powers that be said, whoa, these folks is moving a little too quick. So let's Mr. Jim them, let's Jim Crow them and put these other factors in play, laws and ways of being in play, and then with that along the way there's going to be casualties. But unfortunately, with that, you have to have models of success in your community. In all times, you spoke about the school system, and and say like the Boston school system is fine nationally too. You have individual education plans. So if you're theoretically, if your child has some gaps and needs some supports, there theoretically it doesn't always work like that. In practice, there is a system in place to say, all right, we're going to close this gap. But if your child, on the other hand, is performing well or advanced, there's not as many systems in play. We have a magnet school system once you get from 7th to 12th grade, but there's not a system in play to support and advance that. So oftentimes when we talk about our young people, saying that whatever the percentage of our boys and young ladies who drop out, we render that other higher percent that are doing what they're supposed to be doing, we render them invisible. And when we talk about our young people, so when you do that, you're not coming from a strength base, you're saying, with our mouths, we say, we want this and that, but those who can serve as, still starting to steal, and those who can serve as peer-to-peer learning and examples of success, we render them invisible. And we don't speak about them. You know what I mean? And we don't highlight that so it creates this continuing deficit-based narrative about us. And we say, white folks this, white folks that, but we have internalized that and do it ourselves. And even with, you said, with the kind of even the narrative of the single parent household, you know what I mean? It's like in children, out of wedlock or unmarried, so on and so forth. It's like if you go hard statistics, you would say, I think the number is 70% in whatever 2014, 2015, whatever that last statistic, you know, we're always the subject of numbers and statistics and studies. You know, 70% of whatever the number is,
30 seconds.
it's black folks who born, you know, black children born out of wedlock. You know, just that number alone, you would think that, well, 70% of our children don't have fathers in their lives. So, but which is not the case. But we have this kind of, if you kind of go this kind of traditional Western standard of the nuclear family and kind of go with the numbers and say this and that, you're missing the real story. So it's important for us to unpack the real story and understand that and tell ourselves as well as tell our children, because you can spin the story many ways. You know what I mean? But okay, 30 seconds.
All right. One more response from the panel on that particular question, and then we'll go on. And you have a minute to respond. Anybody else want to follow up with what Jason said?
All right. I'm sorry. Did you want to go?
I just want to say I'm shocked. I'm 23, and it just seems like those statistics are just incredible, like incredibly awful, and that I could still fall within those. I mean, I know I missed a month, like I graduated from high school, of course, and made it through, but it just still seems like, oh, the vast majority of people of my race are going through this, and it makes me grateful, but then also feel like I have to do something in order to like change it for the next generation.
Okay, great. With that being said, we'll move on to the next.
No, good. I mean, because
I just want to say something. I just want to say something really quickly. When you have a system that's designed to make those numbers that way,
Yes.
the system's working good. It's designed to keep people
Absolutely.
poor. It's designed to keep people of color
Uneducated.
at each other. It's designed to keep people of color focused on their differences, rather focused on who they are. Just by someone in here saying, "Oh, I'm a bisexual or something," or "I'm gay," and me saying I'm a Christian, there automatically has to be some sort of contention between us, and it doesn't have to be. Love should win over all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is, well, I should be on the The next question should be,
Should have had a female on here, but we'll talk about that.
Hey. Yeah. Snap, snap, snap. Tell him
Okay.
again. Tell him again. Tell him again. Definitely should have you. Tell him again. Thank you, sis. Tell him again.
He's like, well, we got to move on now. The time is, we got to hurry up.
That's the second phase. That's phase two.
let me say this. No. It has absolutely nothing, because first of all, I'm a beer country, so it's nothing to do with that. The thing I respond to have to say is this is the first thing is that this is an open community dialogue, and there are women who are present, and that your voices can and will be heard. But the second thing is that, yes, there should have been a woman on the panel. But, saying that,
Need
you
a
guys
buttermilk,
were
need a
part of the
buttermilk.
planning too.
Yeah.
He said we're part of the plan.
No, but I will say that I'm absolutely right. And if there is a woman who wants to come up and be a part now, you're going to.
Oh, no, we can talk from the audience when you open it up.
All right.
I love you guys, guys. Group hug. Group hug.
Nobody has loved women more than me. If I wouldn't be here because of a woman and women ain't been all right.
The system got us at odds already.
Next year, make sure. So the next question is, and I want to open this up to the young folks in the audience first to answer the question. What are the major issues that you see that the community face? So when you guys are out and about every day, what is it you see that concerns you?
Rohan. Say again? No. Find the name.
No, everybody speaking one.
Come on, we talk about this. Say
Christian?
something.
Don't be shy.
Yes.
You're with family.
Do you mean like what issues in general or just like racial focused issues?
No, it doesn't have to be racial in general.
Any issues that happen to me specifically are like things like I don't know what category to put it in, but like cat calls and stuff like that. That's like, it's like the worst.
Yeah, we got
Yeah.
verbal harassment.
Sexism?
Sexism.
Yeah, stuff like that. I see that a lot. I usually don't see it because I usually have a backpack when I'm going to school. But if I'm just walking, that happens a lot. But other things like I don't know. That's mostly just what happens to me though. But.
Okay.
One of the fellas?
Something that.
What happened at the corner store?
Right. Tell your story.
We gonna tell your story, somebody tell it for you.
You are the
And they
future.
might not tell it like
You
this.
ain't gonna get it right.
Tell your story.
This is a friendly environment. No one's judging you. No judgment. Just, like just
You don't
sharing.
want to?
We talk about this all the
We
time.
talk about
Yeah, baby, we talk about you. Come on.
I went in the store, I was getting water to water the plants for Raider Four Corners, and then the guy, cause like when my mom be like, go get this, and if it's not there, I'll get something else, and then she'll say, bring it back. So then I didn't want to do that for them, so when I went in, they didn't have the right water, and then the guy just started yelling at me.
How do I make you feel?
Like, never mind.
You can say it so that you don't act it out.
Exactly.
I was gonna be like disrespectful, cause like it was my first time around that community, and I didn't know him, and he didn't know me, so I was gonna be disrespectful, but I didn't say nothing.
All right, so being, victimized, verbal abuse, ignored, ostracized, those are very, pertinent things. And I mean, I think historically we could all say that we have experienced that. So having that being said as a context of understanding that these are our future generations of our folks, what do you see are those challenges? What is it personal to you? I know, Jason, you and I had a great conversation about you being a father. I thought that was fantastic because I'm not a father, but is there other folks on the panel that has those type of issues, things that you face that you see the challenge? Start with Mike.
Is that youth oriented or just in general? I think the challenge is white supremacy, right? Look, the dirty secret in America is that we keep talking about we classify our racism as this ignorance, and people just don't know that they're uninformed. In reality, the coordinators and the architects of this paradigm and the system know exactly what they're doing. Maybe the people who act it out don't, but racism is necessary for white preservation, right? If we don't have a system that disincentivizes, that discourages sexual relations between black and white people, the baby's gonna come out brown, right? And at the end of the day, the baby's gonna come out brown. So if you want white people, you have to create a system that says stay away from them, right? And so the system, the water that we live in, a fish doesn't know it's wet, right? The water that we live in, we have brothers on the block. I had a young boy from my neighborhood that got killed for $2,200, right? On by boys from the same neighborhood, right? At least that's what he's saying, right? That happened. The dude you grew up with, that you played in the sandbox with, over paper that has slave masters on it, right? We see our young people to be educated in schools named after slave masters. Right? Being black in America, I say this, is like living in a museum dedicated to the rape and torture of your parents, right? That has a psychological effect. Again, it says right here, what you see here, like shout out to my boy, my man Julius, he gave me his line. He said, I don't judge victims on how they respond to their oppression, right? And so being black in America, in white supremacy, it drives you crazy, right? And some of us have better coping skills than others, right? And the neurosis that it creates manifests in different ways. It manifests in the homie in Dallas who started banging on the cops, and it manifests into the Sheriff David Clark who applauded the police being exonerated for Freddie Gray. And it came to Republican, your people went to the Republican National Convention, the black sheriff, and got on stage. Shots fired, shots fired.
My special guest is Donald Trump.
But at the end of the day, like the umbrella,
Nothing, Carson?
Ben Carson. Stacey there. Big, I mean, at the end of the day, the umbrella of white supremacy creates all type of divisions, right? And so, like the sister here said, man, some of the biggest resistance I get is amongst, when I go back to the hood with the brothers that I was amongst, that everybody wants to be a savage now. We were conditioned to be savages, right? So, like, we didn't know any better. I escaped that. I came out of your family. It's not like that. I go back to them and tell them about respecting yourself, respecting the sisters, and understanding the value that is crazy. Like I mean, like the animosity. It's a resistance, like they're holding on to that identity. We're conditioned to not, they and completely from day one. There's a book called the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys. From day one, they push you out of the school system. They funnel you into prison. We live in the baby doll experiment. And if you're not familiar with the baby doll experiment, that's young people under the age of 5 who attributed positive characteristics to baby dolls. They had a black doll and a white doll. These are 5, 4, 3-year-old children. Which one is a pretty doll? Which one is a smart doll? Which one is the nice doll? The white one, the white one, the white one. This is what we live in, and it creates various manifestations and problems and divisions, and we live in it. And that's the reason. Those are the reasons why we're not organized the way we should be.
All right, so I'm going to throw this out, and the panel can respond. So I had a chance to be a part of a youth violence task force. It was a youth reduction violence task force for about a year.
Youth violence reduction,
youth
reduction violence.
Yeah.
You put those words in the right order.
Under our great reverend. And I had an opportunity to see police who were white Irish policemen, who came from all parts of the city, who had dedicated and put their lives on the line and went out and did extra work. I mean, they took money out of their own pockets and put on community events. And they came to us and they were telling us reports every week of shots fired, this shot fired, this guy got shot. And I like what you talked about okay, I'm going to try to be, I'm going to be as unbiased about this as possible. But I like the idea that you talked about the relationship that black people have with each other, and you use adjectives like savages, and you use adjectives like violence. And I had an opportunity to speak with a lady who was doing some scholar work around this, and I know that doesn't mean anything, but she said, you know what, some people see what you do to each other as savagery. And so my question to you is, at what point, or can we, stop blaming systemic racism, and how do we look beyond systemic racism if we know that that's the problem? How do we internally begin to address the issue that we begin to create in our own culture, a culture of trust, a culture of community, particularly with our young kids? Or do you agree with that statement, or do you disagree with that statement?
I talk slow, I talk a lot. I'm taking up a little bit too much time on the panel, but I just want to.
You're like a preacher.
I'm not a preacher. I'm definitely not a preacher type, but.
It would be okay if you were.
It's okay, man.
All right, just all right.
All
right. He said, I ain't no preacher. Never, ain't no way in hell I'll be a preacher. Wait a minute now.
You know, I like a chicken dinner like everybody else, but what really I was going to say is just going to push back on this kind of the language of saying, when you talk, talk about I think it's reductionist language when if you speak to the systemic context and say blame, they say, oh, you blaming, systemic racism. It's like, it's not about blame, it's about calling it what it is. And I just feel that you say blame, it's like a dismissal. I'm going to let some of the other brothers talk.
So
I just wanted to contextualize that.
So in your contextualizing that, answer the question that is posed is what are the solutions to it? So if we recognize that a lot of our behaviors has been induced by systemic racism, and we've been conditioned, which I don't disagree with what you said at all, but how do we address the issue? That's the thing that, as a black man, that I'm concerned about. And then once we do that, we'll open up to you. Sure, absolutely. So go ahead.
Could we defer to her?
Yeah, that's how we defer to her.
No.
You're the moderator. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Answer it.
No.
I know Cheryl. Cheryl wants to talk. She'll talk. Don't worry.
There's some, I can.
You wanna go ahead?
You want some?
No, go ahead.
It has to be duality in it. I think we need to, you need to stop the causality, right? You need to stop the causation. What's causing it, right? And then, so in order, you want to stop the bleeding, you want to stop the injury. You like take the bullet out, take the knife out, right? And then you stop the bleeding, right? So the first thing we have to do is along the lines of what the brother Jason said. Again, accurately assess this. Stop blaming ourselves. Like I can't tell you how many times I ran into brothers, right? And who would say, who look at the young boys who run around here shooting and going crazy, and then blame them and want to disconnect from them and say, like the brother Will said, this is just a plan working perfectly. If we know that do we not know that there was a conspiracy to remove the man out of the household and destabilize the household, and then in fact, as a result, destabilize the community? There was intentionality in that. There was a theory behind it, and it's working, it's manifesting itself. So we need to accurately assess that, stop victim blaming. Once we do that, then we go out and then we spread awareness about what the real problem is. Change the narrative in the community. You got to do better. It's your fault. And then once you realize that, hey, this is where the problem is coming from. Like that old, was it the African parable? The baby's coming down the stream. Go up the stream and look where it's coming from. And once you know, once we as a community, as a people understand, hey, this was done to us. Look at all this savagery. I'm gonna wrap it up here. Go watch Gangs in New York. This is what you see in our community as a result of socioeconomic conditions, right? And along with white supremacy, telling you that you're disgusting, you're ugly, you're nasty, you're the dredge of the earth. When you put people in a vulture capitalist society like America, and you give a little bit, go to the nicest community of people and loving community of people where they have family to take care of, and put one pizza down. And you say, you guys figure it out. Watch the savagery come out, right? It's because it's a fight for it's a fight for not enough resources. The end.
So I just want to comment. I have a lot to say. I've been writing so I could be quiet, right? But I'm not going to go. But to that question, then when we talk about, and everybody's touched upon it, but we're talking about dismantling the system, right? And how do you dismantle the system? There's so many things. One, we have our history with, you all are all alluding to the whole thing, right? Like, we have our history. When I think about being ripped away from the family, slavery installed that a long time ago, when black men had to be ripped from the family, watch their women be savaged, the whole 9 yards, that whole piece we have going on there. And then us not passing our history on to our children, right? So that they understand that, and then when we talk about the messages that we're sending out there, it's the way we talk and the way we feel, changing the narrative of the conversations that we're absolutely having. A piece of that is about the healing. We have years and years and layers of trauma upon us, and so we're trying to fix our community. We say, I'm an organizer. I'm the executive director of Mass Vote, and we do issue advocacy and voter mobilization, things of that nature to turn our people out to vote. And so people are constantly saying, vote for what? What does it matter? Things of that nature. So we have to deal with that over there. But at the same time, I understand, and Tina, you're a very big part of this kind of, we have to heal, not just the victims, those that have been victimized, the whole 9 yards. It's this healing of our people, building resilience, building ourselves up. At the same time, we're over here, organizing. Someone said it. We're out organized because we can't seem to work together for that same piece that you just brought up. You drop a little bit in there, and then everybody try to fight over it. It's just so much. It's complicated. There's a lot to this. It needs to be dissected, but the middle and the bottom, this country was built on racism. It exists in everything that we do, and we are signaled out. We are moving targets because of the color of our skin. We can't float in and out of the system and, blend in. So we constantly we're constantly warriors, but there's like, how do we fix this? One, we have conversations like this. I think now is the time. The country is ripe for everybody, for outcries. We cannot stop screaming and talking about this. Things are happening all over the country. I think don't let it die down. we cannot afford to not talk about this with our young people, to contextualize it for them, to help them understand what it is that we do need to do. And a major part of that is organize. All of us come from different sectors, different backgrounds, we all from different lanes, but we all in some kind of way have to connect the dots, because it's definitely, you know, overlaps. Everything overlaps, everything, you know. It's just a lot, but you know, you all are doing an amazing job touching upon all these different pieces of how we're going to solve this issue, and it's about, bottom line, dismantling the system and organizing.
Well, I'd just like to,
add one more thing before we go to the next question. I don't want it to be like a tag on the back end of it. Another thing in our community we have to do, we have to really honestly address kind of the presence of kind of patriarchy, misogyny,
Yes.
and like a toxic masculinity within our, you know, within our community, within our families, within our relations, and that takes, you know, many forms, like, you know, like objectifying, like I think the youngster's name is Jasmine. She said, you know, getting catcalled, and unfortunately it's bad enough getting catcalled, but I guarantee you, without having ever walked in their shoes, that it's grown men also who are, you know, doing that to our young girls. But also that kind of understanding that is like, how do we collaborate as when you're no longer my lady, but we have children together, and like how do we still continue to work as a team, or how do we have healthy conflicts? You know what I mean? Because you're gonna have disagreement when you're trying to team up. How do we have healthy conflict, or how do I get myself as a man to a space where I'm comfortable with, you know, my lady or my ex-lady, whatever, enjoying the same freedoms of movement that I enjoy. You know what I mean? And oftentimes we don't talk about kind of that. And on the other end, I'm just speaking from a man's perspective, but then the ladies got something they need to deal with too. But you know, just like misogyny and things like is man created, so we have to own it. It's the same thing. So like really getting into how we relate as men and women, and that goes to you know, we oftentimes have this, I touched on a little bit earlier, this narrative of this kind of idealized way of what the family looks like. We talk about all the keys is, if the, you know, it's this kind of nuclear family. You know what I mean? And we have to widen and strengthen the concept of accountability to each other, regardless of what the living situation is. And I think oftentimes we don't have honest conversations about that, and that has a lot to do with kind of the very modern, very recent time-wise kind of Western concept. It has a lot to do with kind of the how much Christianity plays a part in how we view each other around the body and around roles of women and so on and so forth. And I say that lovingly.
Boo.
I say that lovingly, not as a knock. Like, you know what I mean? Because we can still be on the same page, like Denmark Vesey and Color Jack. Okay. The Republican cut me off.
So I think that as we go forward, I think that the one thing I'll challenge the audience and the panel is the question still has not, and I think that this is just part of the symptom of what's happening in our community and how we're trying to get a handle of all of these different things that we have to counter and resolve. But the answer to the question has not been answered fully. I mean, I think there's some aspects of it. So one of the things I would challenge is that throughout this conversation, that we really think about and talk about if we're noticing and we're identifying systems, and we're saying and we're using analogies to identify the system, what we need to do as a community is to come up with concrete steps. So like what we do in the nonprofit world, we come up with outcomes and solutions. And what we do with those outcomes is we measure them, and we measure them with success. And I think that that is something that is critical in our community, is that we begin to talk about specific solutions and also being able to hold ourselves accountable. Yes, ma'am, and then yes, sir, and then we will move on.
I
will not interject anymore, I'm sorry.
So we often talk about dismantling systems, and I'm a community organizer.
Yes, ma'am.
and I went to some event one day, and the person said, "We have to protest this dirty coal-fired plant. Why don't the people in the town, why are they not receptive to, us coming in and protesting this plant?" I said, "Because you're going about it in the wrong way. You're hitting at their livelihood and what keeps them going. That is the center of that town. That's where everybody works. So if you shut it down, do you have an alternative?" So if we want to talk about dismantling systems, that's not really the solution. The solution is creating our own systems and setting up our own structure so that the structure is it's something different. It's education, it's public safety, it's housing, it's economics. We have to set up a different system. We're not going to dismantle this system. We have to take and we have to go over and we have to do it a different way. And if we talk in little rooms like this, and then somebody's having a conversation in that room over there, and then last night they were back here, that's not how you build a new structure. We have to come together as a group, and we have to start doing things differently. If we support their banks and their businesses and their educational structures, we're not dismantling it, we're supporting it. Bank of America and Countrywide Mortgage decimated our home ownership structures over the past few years. And yet people say, "Oh, Bank of America's not charging me fees, so I want to go to Bank of America and put my money in there." Yeah, and then you're having this stupid conversation about, "I don't want to pay fees, so I'm going over here and feeding the beast." And so they continue to oppress you. So that's the solution, is what we're not doing, and what we're talking about is racism keeps on affecting us. When I get my car to drive down the street, my back light's out, the police are pulling me over and harassing me. I've had it done 3 times, fixed the light, it broke again, they came after me the next day. So it's gonna affect me when I walk out the door. But if we're over here doing something else, when it hits it in the pocket, bam, it's over, and it's on.
But I just wanna say, and rebut to that,
Oh,
when
oh,
I
this
say dismantling the system, that is a part of it. Well, how do you, it's how do you dismantle it? I totally agree, it's economic, you follow the dollar. You stop supporting this system, that's how you dismantle this system. We're not gonna go in there and break it apart overtly without all of us on the same page. Like, we're doing this silent, boycott for these different systems. I don't know if you all have seen it, but we're not talking about it out loud. It's out on,
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so
You didn't name no place, though.
That's right.
All right, so
But they're happening.
I want to just put this in context. So what she was saying is very, I'm not agreeing or disagreeing, but it's a concrete solution to say, this is what we need to do. And I would like to historically reference that, oh, come on in. No, you don't have to do that. There you go. Oh, yes, you took my picture.
Yes, I did.
So I think that one of the things that was great about that dialogue was that if you look historically at how we dealt with segregation, how we dealt with systemic oppression, we socially and economically, we were forced to create our own economy.
That's right.
And if you look at the other groups of color that are in the country, they do it a lot better than we do. And I think that that's something to say for what we've done.
I want to say one more thing
Sure.
about
And then anybody else wants to respond, and then we'll go ahead. Yeah.
talking about, like, if we went back to desegregation and we looked at pre-desegregation, when it was segregation, that we had directories for our hotels and our businesses for people to travel around. And those businesses, the green pages, and those businesses were thriving, actually, because they were being patronized by black people who were not allowed to go and commingle with the other groups. And so, with the other groups specifically. And so, if we looked at that and said, okay, it's okay, that would have been okay to keep having your green books and going and supporting the restaurants and the hotels and everything, but everybody was like, make it into soup and let's all blend together. There was nothing wrong with being supportive of black businesses. There was nothing wrong with Black Wall Street, except that it got bombed because the hippies came over and said that gotta go. It's way too successful. But if If it wasn't
20
just a,
seconds, 20 seconds.
if it wasn't just just a microcosm of it all, if it was set up in all of the different areas where we live, and it wasn't just Black Wall Street in Tulsa, and we had it all over the place, that's when we win.
All right. Anybody else?
Okay,
Real.
quickly. So two things. The first thing is that the question that you asked, the question that you want an answer to, is right in front of you. You said that we're kind of touching, but the question is not really answered. It's because we live in a snapshot society where we
Yes.
want an answer given to us right way
That's
to
right.
fix hundreds and hundreds of years of oppression. You just want fixed immediately. There is no. It's unrealistic to come up with the answer like 1 + 1 is 2, and then that's it. So that's not going to work. Another thing is that, but there's people here who are standing and who are just in this room for the simple fact that we're working on it. So the problem is being confronted. So that is the answer, to confront the problem. That's what we're doing.
Well, let me say this to you before you go forward. So
Yep.
I'll push this back and say this to you. So why is it that we're so boisterous with a snap response of what the problem is?
Mhm.
We're not with this as it relates to the solution. So for example, we'll throw this out and then you guys can, do whatever you guys want, unpack it however you want. So for specifically, let's say right now, we have a prominent Black Lives Matter movement that's happening. And the Black Lives Matter movement is specifically dealing with a issue that is a problem. So my question in response to you is, how is it that we're so quick to identify the problem, but now we say, okay, then we have to unpack that to get a solution. So how does that work? How do you do that?
Okay, so the reason why it's so easier to see the problem now is because it's becoming, we have the event of television, the event of, lynchings used to happen, no one would hear, we don't know where he is, he probably got lynched. That's how it used to be. Now, you see these things on television and these problems, you have the Google, internet, everything in front of your face. But to touch back on the problem again, just like this young lady here said something about being catcalled and stuff, I immediately thought of my 15-year-old daughter, and I was like, okay, when I go home, I'm going to talk to her. Guess what that's doing? That's dealing with the catcalling problem as a whole. So even though we are making small, little steps, it's still steps. The other question that you asked about the why Asians and other people can come here and they do a business and we just can't do that, that's because the banks and these people in the system understands that if these Asian people or these Muslim people that have these businesses get out of hand, they can send them back to wherever country that they came from. They can just get rid of them, deport them. Black people, we have no place where we can go. So that's why we don't get the same loans that they get. That's why people can come here from other countries and get a loan and start a mom and pop business out of nowhere. We aren't afforded the same rights. So that's why. It's not that we're given the same things that they're given and we don't start businesses. We're not given anything from them.
There's one thing I think we'll hold to and we'll go back to, I think is important, is actually understanding and identifying how problems are presented to the community and how we address those problems. Because one of the problems that I see in the community is that we have narratives being defined for us, and we go for those narratives when there are issues in the community that should be highlighted, should be addressed, and we're not mobilizing around those issues, and it's causing a detriment. Yes, Ms. T.
I struggled coming here because I've avoided a lot of these meetings when issues happen yet.
Sorry.
Because I'm a part of the Black Directors Network, it was my duty to be here. There's so much goodness and assets in our community. And yet we still focus on what's wrong in our community. With social media, with Facebook, with texting, with tweeting, with Instagram, it's always about what is wrong in our community. And yet we don't take the opportunity to promote and reward and support and embrace and enhance the amazing things that are happening in our community. So for me, sitting here, I want some of these things so that I can promote in our Facebook and send within our social media. When my son was killed 23 years ago at 15, I did not want to focus on the guns or the gangs because media was already promoting that in my community. And 23 years later, we still are. I wanted to focus on the assets in our community and who we are as a people and who we are called to be according to my God. Love and act humbly and obey God. So for me, I had to struggle. A black man killed my child, not a white cop, not a white person, and it's the son of a Boston police officer. So I had a choice to make. Do I let my rage, the savagery in me, the animal in me, do to them what was done to me? Or do I let the God in me? Do I begin to heal from the hurt? And do I shift that narrative from our community? And instead of focus on guns and gangs and the problem of black on black crime, how do I look at the different narrative and focus on peace? So I think for me, while we're here, if there's one thing that can come out, and one action, and I'm an action-oriented person. I need to leave here and I need to do something so that I can move forth. There's one thing that I've asked whenever I go places, two things actually. One, even in this room, if we can find a list and list all of us that are doing something, and we connected with all our organizations and says, here are the organizations that are doing something. Worcester, wherever we're from, that's one. Because I would love to connect all of you so people can see who we are and what we're doing. And then a photo of the four of you so also people can see we do have black men in communities that are doing something good. So that's what I would like to promote. Secondly, and this is not an immediate, and I think that's sometimes what happens with us. We're so Instagram that we want solutions quickly. I would love for us to work, and it's not about religion. I would like for us to work and get prayer back in the school. However people pray, but providing a space where when our children walk into school, they have a minute to meditate, a minute to be free, a minute to do something before they get into math and science and everything else. Providing a safe space for our children. If we're talking about historically, when they took prayer out of the schools, we opened the door and we said, devil, come on in. Our children are yours. Again, I'm not talking about religion. I was baptized Methodist. I enjoy a good Bible, good Baptist revival. I found joy in a Jewish temple. And I practiced Catholicism all of my life. So I'm not talking about religion. So again, let's begin to promote the assets. Maybe the narrative is who is doing what and how are we flourishing despite of the crisis that continues to happen in our community, because that's not who we are. And one, that's just my policy that I would like to implement. There are maybe policies that we can challenge our legislators and put it forth. So there's a policy that, again, will show who we are as a community, regardless of what we allow other people to say. So that, I'm done.
Okay, so I want to do this because I'm very cognizant of the room, and there are people in the room who are not black, who are here, and I think that it's important to include them in the conversation, to ask the question to those who are in the room who are non-black. How do you perceive the challenges or the issues of the black community? And I think that that's a very fair question to ask. And I just want to throw that out there. If anybody wants to say something and add to that, please do so. I really would.
Well, I can just say that, I can't truly understand what the black community goes through. I don't live in the black community, but I am with a black man, so I understand what issues he goes through. I also work in education, and one of the things that I see that's real disturbing to me is the dropout rate. I think that black students are targeted by the teachers, by the school systems. I think they're pushed out of the schools, and that's real disturbing to me. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be around that, because I think education is key in young people being able to make a life and to move forward. You know, getting a high school diploma is not enough anymore. We all need to, you know, go to college now to really make a living. I don't think that you're offered the same opportunities from like the white communities that I grew up in.
Well, you know, I think that one thing I'd like to hit back on is that there was something in the banner today that said by 2020, 69% of all jobs in the United States will probably require you to have a post-secondary education. That's astonishing. And it's frightening for our prospects, for some of the things that we have to deal with. One more, then we'll get back to the panel with the question. I'm sorry. I'm trying to make it as interactive as possible.
I'm Dan, I'm Tony's intern. I would like to just say that, you know, a lot of the frustration that is being voiced are universal, human frustrations. And that systemically, our government, I believe, has is manipulating and working itself in a way that the division is key for the system to continue to work. Because universally, everyone understands addiction, overdose deaths, violence. These are not individual they're targeting in certain communities, but there are people that are frustrated. Occupation Wall Street was a manifestation of society's problems, and then Black Lives Matter are just individual pieces of the puzzle are beginning to frustrate people. And I think there's an old African folklore about Itu, and it's a person who confuses two neighbors and they fight. And basically what happened is our government is not working for the system, and division amongst everybody is not allowing our government, and the system is just perpetuating this and not solving problems. And then people's frustration is, well, the government is not fixing the problems. The government's not fixing the problems. What I learned from my own personal experience is that not doing the education, taking the shortcut, and thinking the American dream was a bunch of money. I did not become a better person. My morals, my principles allow me to justify doing bad things, and it took me. So what I try to do today is work on my individual stuff, recognize other people's struggles, and work not to be part of the problem. Now, when you all come together, yes, but I think together society works better when we have forums like this. I cannot personally understand a Black person's struggle. I can understand that there's ethnic divides, but I do want to learn. I want our system to get better, and I want problems, the big problems, violence, to decrease. Because I do believe that in this country, when we work together, we can achieve things. And I don't think we've had a leader like Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, that have come out to direct us. And that leader, when they emerge, will make this country go in the right direction again. That's it.
These are great, and he's moving right us into the next question. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. I think that, you know, just to piggyback off that, and we're going to go to the next question and we'll pose it out to the panel, is this. I think that historically, too, what we've seen is that, particularly in the beginning, many people don't know that Black people owned white slaves in the beginning. But the capitalist system itself exploited it, and a lot of things that occur. That's very true. It's a historical fact.
Slaves or indentured servants? There's a difference.
No. As it relates to the chattel slavery, as what I'm referring to, I'm saying that there were Black people who had white people who were under their control until capitalism itself exploited it, and there became a point where race became the social construct of what the issue of the problem is, and it became that Black people became actual slaves of chattel slavery. That's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that the exploitation of human beings has always been something that has been a gain of a capitalist system, and that is important that we recognize that. But the next question I'd like to ask is,
got it. Only white people have never been subjected to chattel slavery in America. So, and, you know,
That's news to me too.
it never has been.
That's news to me, too.
It is.
It could be just literally news. I could be wrong.
Indentured servitude had a period, a beginning and end period. Also, indentured service was still recognized as full human. Chattel slave, I know all the time, like the brother earlier said, we are still slaves. Anybody who says we are still slaves truly does not understand what slavery
Well, I think that if you look at
I don't want to
slavery.
interrupt your flow, but
No, you're not at all. So I think that what we can do is have a definite historical disagreement of what that means, because as we do know that there was definitely a time in our history, in our country, where African Americans, Africans who had came to the United States of America, had people who were under economically and socially under their control. That is a fact of history. It is. But I will move on to the next part of this.
I feel like you're playing
We
with
can have
it.
this conversation again.
I'll let you catch up.
But the next thing is, President Obama. Is President Obama empowering the black community politically and economically? Has our community been empowered? Socially, politically, economically? Yes, no to the panel.
Go ahead, Mike. You have any?
That's definitely not a
Just say
one-word.
yes or no, then we'll move on to
No, that's not, I'm not gonna be reduced to Snapchat, yes or no. It's not a yes or no question. You know what I mean? Has he kept the military industrial complex in place? Yes. You know what I mean? You know, but then you have other things that did he put resources into the what's the department that, you know, looks at like housing discrimination and stuff? HUD? No, not HUD. Damn it, I can't think of the name. Help me out, Cheryl.
Fair housing?
You know, when his first term, he, you know, under Holder, they reactivated around the housing. Yeah, he puts a lot of funds
the
into that.
predatory mortgage lending is what you're talking about.
Well, it all falls under this housing.
Yeah,
department.
don't be relying about government departments.
No, but you're in the right place.
Yeah, I can't remember the actual, you know, government, what you call it. And, you know, and just from a social aspect, you know, my oldest child is 8. So, you know what I mean? And, you know, he, you know, I have 2, you know, 8, 6, and 4, I got little stair steps. But they only, in one, you know, they only know, you know, a president and first lady. When they think of the presidency and you know, was president, they only know Ben Rock and Michelle Obama. You know what I mean? And I don't know, you know, what psychological factor that has, but it's got to be a good one. You know what I mean? That's new space for Black Americans. That's just new space. I'm done. I talk about it.
No, I don't think so.
All right, Wood.
First, I would like to say that if slavery is still in effect today, if you count how many black people are in prison, working off of their backs for money, living in cages for non-drug offenses, if you think that there is no slavery going on in this country today, it might not be the same exact way, but it is still very much so happening. But that's another question. I think President Obama has done a lot for black people, yes.
I think the slavery industry has evolved, and people don't. That's how people misdiagnose it. It doesn't look like it used to. But the answer to your hell no. And Obama ain't empowered nothing, man. Don't fall for brown puppets, man. Obama has done nothing. I believe that point that the brother made is, in all due respect, contributes to the delusion that I started out with. This delusion that we've made strides as a country because all you see is a black figurehead. The president, since Kennedy started, the president has been nothing but a figurehead. He has no power.
Since who?
Kennedy died. Since Kennedy was killed
Why
by our
you say
government.
that? Why you say that?
That was the transition. You had the New Deal from Truman, right, and the residuals from that. Kennedy did not go along that, and it's the reason why they wiped him out of here. And everybody after that made sure that they did not repeat that step. And everybody after that has been a puppet. There's no reason. But to your point blank, I'm not going to change the topic. Obama has done nothing specifically for black people. He did that Brothers Keeper initiative that has almost like no ramification, no measurable outcomes, no SMART goal outcomes that you talked about. It's a joke, man. Nah, shit.
All right, so what we're gonna do right now, we're gonna take 5 minutes. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna split off in the group. I want you to look at the person beside you or behind you, and I want you to engage them for 5 minutes. I want you to have a conversation and talk about the impact that President Obama has had on the African American community politically, socially, and economically, okay? And for the guys in the group, for those who agree, I guess it's, well, Jason and William, I guess you guys can have a conversation, and then
About
David
slavery.
and Mike. Yes, indeed. I want to say this. Your response was not relevant to what I was saying.
It's all relevant, Tony.
Well, okay, so go ahead.
So Jason and Will, me and
Right,
Dave.
so you guys sit next to each other, have this conversation, and you two sit next to each other. 5 minutes. Research on it and look at it, but it's something that's out there. It just wasn't a claim that just came out of my head or anything like that. So I just want to be very clear about it. I always want to inform the folks
Keep doing
of the
research.
right things.
Keep doing research.
All right?
You'll catch up.
All right, so each panelist, based upon the conversation, the thing here says 4 minutes, let's make it 2 minutes. Based upon each group together. So each group together, give us a little feedback on what your conversation was about President Obama and his performance in office and how it impacted us.
Well, Brother Will just shared just kind of a menu of some pluses and minuses of what's happened along in during the Obama presidency around increase in the poverty rate of black children, increase in the poverty rate of children of poverty, which is negative, but also an increase in the historical low in black high school
Dropouts.
As in the lowest number of dropouts ever.
Even though they're being targeted, they're not dropping out as much as they used to before Obama came in office.
Yeah, and then you got the statistics right there. We just kind of went through like a report card, and we discussed that kind of the whole idea of it being, understanding that he's not a king, it's part of a checks and balances system, and yes/no provocative as it may be. It's not a you can't have a simple answer to like a complex situation. So. Just kind of checks and balances. And overall, that's how you make analysis of, how this presidency went.
He's also the president of the United States of America, not just the black community. So it's kind of unfair to judge him on what he did for only black people when he's the president of the nation as a whole. Kind of unfair. I didn't say completely.
No. So I would say this, to put this out there, that other presidents are held to that standard. We hold other presidents to standard of what they did for the black community. And the fact of the matter is, if you talk about a drop in high school dropout rate, but poverty has increased, what the hell does that say? I think that's another issue in the matter as well. But I should really be objective.
To answer your question, it says that they're going to get their education. So if the poverty rate does increase, they'll be better prepared for it in the future. We all know the importance of education, and if he is improving in that area, that can't be ignored.
Increase funding to HBCUs.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Because I want Mike to be our spokesperson,
Oh,
but
yeah,
I just wanted to say, I just feel like we're saying like education is a great equalizer, but then it's like we have insurmountable loans that we have, and it's like we're basically in debt to corporations. So what does that mean if we say education is the answer, and then it's like we're basically indentured servants to these corporations?
Facts.
He did forgive loans, though, school loans.
Yes, he did.
Didn't he give it to like? Okay.
On the education piece though, not only like are we paying for this education, but what are we really being educated on?
Facts.
Is that education?
Facts.
So I think that's a
the real problem. The education that we are given access to is not preparing us for the adulthood or for the livelihood we would need to be successful even in this country. And I think that's
But you can't hold Obama responsible for that.
I would never hold him. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, on his point about the fact, yes, we're endangering the cost, but we're also, endangering
Absolutely.
the mental cost.
Mark,
I don't know
Mark
why.
Twain got a great quote where he says, "I never let my schooling get in the way of my education."
I don't know why we can't hold Obama for that. He picks a person of education. The education is in their cabinet. He is responsible for that, in my opinion.
But they can't be in the cabinet if we don't go out and vote.
We don't vote on the cabinet.
But we vote for all the people that sit up in here that he has the opportunity, and by us voting, one of the things by us not going out to vote, see, I just want to say this. Just like we can blame Obama and say he didn't do for black people, he could turn around and say to us, you didn't do what you needed to do in 2010 so that I didn't lose the House, so I could have support to take care of the issues that I need.
My pushback against that is no Republicans play like that, and that's his fault for getting in there and doing and trying to work with. That was his naivete to think that to try to reach across the aisle and work with Republicans, knowing
They lost the House.
Let each person speak.
No, right. So when he came in, he had the hammer. The Democrats had the hammer. Instead of ramrodding pushing this stuff through, he didn't. He tried to play politics and reach across the aisle, knowing darn well that the Republicans had no investment in him doing anything well, and they were going to block everything. That was a flawed logic and flawed strategy, and he needs to be held responsible and accountable for that. But to the point about the education, where he might have put a dent in the dropouts. It speaks to your point earlier about you need degrees, right? So like that diploma don't mean nothing. Like that mean that's equivalent to you getting past 8th grade now, right? And so like the world is changing.
You need that diploma to continue on.
Right. But that's true. But are they why aren't we talking about college graduates, right? So the new system is this, right? So it's still funneling into institution. They are maxing and taxing college students, right? So like they're funneling a whole bunch of kids into college. They're not graduating, not all graduating, but they're accumulating massive amounts of debt. And if you ain't smart enough and you couldn't play the game well enough to get to college, you're going to prison. Right? The other way, either you're going to jail, or you're going to college. There's an institution, right? But I wanted Dave to share. He had a brilliant line that I absolutely agree with. We were basically on the same lines. He's done nothing for us economically, politically, socially. I understand the narrative that he's the president of the United States and not the president of black people. But at the same time, you are a black man, and this state sanctioned execution of unarmed black people, and his response to it has been utterly irresponsible.
Even in his own town.
I've said that for the longest. Say Chicago's a war zone. I don't think any other president would allow that to happen. It just reflects poorly on you, right? And it may be a little grandiose to expect him to go back in and wave the magic wand in Chicago. But bruh, be more visible in Chicago. Like when you show up, people start doing different things, right? But like that, yeah. So Dave, please share your line about his relationship with Clinton, if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, I just said like Bill Clinton is always touted as like the first black president, but then it's like really if you see it, it's like of course not with his 3 strikes rules, you know, like his policies have led to mass incarceration today of countless black men and women. Mm-hmm. And I was just thinking that it seems like Obama is kind of like his idealized version of who he would want to be, because it just seems like he wants to be a black man, but then it's like he's not really a black man. And I think like in this, again, getting to like gender and sex, it's like with gender, it's like, well, sex is like what you're born with, like how you're born, your anatomy, but then gender is how you idealize yourself and how you view yourself. And you have to tell people how you are and who you are. And I think like it's the same with race, because race is also a social construct like gender. So we can't really say that Obama is the first black president because he has never identified himself as black, like in the social construct in that manner. And I think even in the beginning of his term, he also said, you know, like he's not going to give black people handouts, you know, like he's a president for all, which is fine, I guess I understand as a president, but then I think like, we can't expect him as, you know, like to be the black man, and I guess just kind of like he's not a black man.
Let's throw out 2 things and then we'll have the audience and then we'll close out. So I think Cheryl said a very powerful statement about we may not have made him work for it, to the point that, you know, we put a mandate on him, but we didn't go out, we didn't organize, and we didn't do that. So I was thinking about being a black man who is LGBT. And I thought about it over his 8 years. It's like, my God, how much gay rights was advanced under President Obama? As a black man, I'm like, damn, this is bad.
And Republicans were not co-signing that at all.
No, but as a gay man, I say, well, you know,
Things
and
will be
I
better.
identify more with being black than gay. That's just how it is. But the idea of it is, I'm thinking, that is incredible that we got to that point. So how does that work? How does that dynamic happen that it happens? And it goes to her point, is that the LGBTQ community made him work for it. But the fact of the matter is this. As a black man, when I look at the roll sheets and I see food stamps for black people up 58%, poverty up for black people 58 up percentage-wise, 9.5 unemployment rate for African Americans. It goes back to David's point. David's point is simply this. I mean, really, there's nothing in what he has done has identified him as being black or as being having even a real fight in it for black people. I mean, and I guess I'm not being as biased as I need to be. I mean, as unbiased as I need to be. But the idea of it is the examination of who he is, and really, as the president, it really lets you know already what my theory has always been, is that a lot of these things are already defined for us. And so the idea that as black people, that somehow we have anchored our entire existence or our progress to this one man, to me, seems to be very erroneous.
Yes.
I guess, I mean, I
guess did I fudge you up?
No, I'm just saying,
If I did, it's okay.
I want to go back to what I said, like he's been like more of a white president, because I just feel like we live in a capitalistic society, so he speaks for whoever has the money.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
just like, it's not it's a green thing. It's a green thing. So I think we need to, the black community needs to build up our economics.
Can we say real quickly, the LGBT, I'm glad you brought that up. No. That we need to do, that's one of the issues in our community
No, I
too.
mean,
right?
you can be candid.
No, that's fine. No, but the LGBT thing, right? So when people argue that he's not the president of black people, so he can't do anything specifically for black people. First thing is, I don't know if you could do anything, if it's even possible for him to do anything specifically for black people because of how do you identify as such. So you say specifically black Americans, I don't know if there's anything specifically you could do outside of reparations. So like maybe if you got a think tank there, say what could you specifically do? That would be like the equivalent to what he did for the gay community. But the gay community, he has specific examples of what he did specifically for the population, gay population. The repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, right? Gay marriage, the fight for gay marriage. Those are things that are specific to the gay community. He doesn't have a resume of things specific to the black community, and he did those things, he enacted those specific acts. And he's not the first gay president, at least not openly.
Fair Sentencing Act.
Fair Sentencing Act is not specific to black people. They
there's
benefit from
majority,
it. But
right.
The gay people, the gay marriage, right, and the Don't Ask, Don't Tell, specifically for black people. I'm not talking about things that black people benefit from. Of course there are things that I'm talking about things that are specific to black people and exclusive to black people. There is no legacy of that.
Okay.
How is it possible to do
Okay,
that?
I'm gonna give you
Hold on,
there's a list
just
here.
one second. We have a very short amount of time, but everybody needs to be able to converse in this conversation. Let's go to some audience. Definitely, we'll start with you. We'll take a few more folks in the audience, 2 more folks in the audience to really talk about this and answer this question. Go ahead.
Okay, so I read a number of lists, and I went and pulled one of the lists back up.
Yeah.
The first thing that was on the list is $1.2 billion to black farmers, because the black farmers had been shut out of the farm bill, and they weren't being financed, and people were losing their farms, and then their farmland was being taken in by developers and built up, and they called it black land law. So the president put money back to the black farmers. Also to the historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs. He increased financing for the HBCUs. Also all of the housing, there was trillions of dollars that were lost by black people